Welcome to RAIN, the Real Estate Investor Growth Network with your hostess, Jen Josie. Join like-minded real estate investors and accelerate your business towards greatness. You will hear step-by-step strategies for success, interviews with real estate rock stars, and we will dig deep into past projects where we bear it all, including the good, the bad, and some just plain ugly. So get excited. Here's the bestower of badassery herself, the real Jen Josie. Listener discretion is advised.
Hi, and welcome back. I'm Jen Josie, creator of RAIN, the Real Estate Investor Growth Network. Whoop, whoop. On today's episode, we have a guest that will be sharing their badassery. But before we begin, here is today's badassery bestowment, my little badass gift to you. Today's topic is the importance of networking. Networking is crucial for newer real estate investors as it can open up a world of opportunities and help build lasting relationships in the industry. Building a strong network of real estate professionals such as agents, brokers, lenders, and other investors can provide access to valuable resources and knowledge that can help investors make better informed decisions and find profitable deals. Attend industry events, join real estate investing groups, and engage with professionals online to expand your network and learn from others in the industry. So just remember, real estate investing is a team sport, and building a strong network can make all the difference in your success. Now on to today's episode of the Real Estate Investor Growth Network podcast. We have with us Maria Zondervan. Maria is a successful CEO and entrepreneur with a background in wildlife biology. She left her biology career after 26 years to focus on commercial real estate investing through her company, Blue Vikings Capital LLC. Maria specializes in recession-resistant assets and help investors grow their net worth with consistent annual returns of 12% or more. She is also the founder of Valhalla Villas, a nonprofit organization dedicated to providing housing and independent living services for autistic adults. I have known Maria for a while, and I'm thrilled to finally get her on the show. So welcome, Maria.
Thank you so much.
It's so great to have you. And we have some construction noise going on in the background, and Maria was apologizing up and down. I'm like, listen, this is a real estate investor show. We welcome the construction noise. So if you all hear a little bit in the background, it's not a big deal. We love hearing work getting done, right, Maria?
That's right. There's a lot of that going on right now, unfortunately.
So we have met each other through a mastermind, Tim Brott's mastermind. So shout out to Tim and the whole Legacy family. But you live in Orlando. I went to college in Orlando. So I immediately put my talons in you. I'm like, ooh, I like her, Floridian. So let's talk a little bit about your biology background, because my favorite story about you is a hat that you have. You know I'm going to make you tell the story. So Tell us about it.
Yeah, so Jen is referring to my lovely pecker checker hat. And she brings it up every time we meet. So yes,
the pecker
indeed.
Checker.
Pecker checker. So yeah, I am an official pecker checker. The hat even has a check mark on it next to the pecker checker. Because I work with woodpeckers and we check on their well-being. So it's an endangered woodpecker, and we climb up trees and do all sorts of crazy things with woodpeckers. And so we are all certified pecker checkers.
Now, this is totally off topic here, but the wings of because I feel like one got injured one time. We tried to rescue a woodpecker, and underneath, was it checkered underneath? Am I just because we're talking about pecker checker? Some of them
have this speckled, checkery look to them. Yes. Yeah, okay. We call it barred. It looks barred. That's what we say.
Interesting.
Yeah. Yep.
Well, I love a good pecker checker. So thank you for sharing that story.
Made the guys wear those too.
All right. So we kind of have a little bit of a different topic today. And I absolutely love this because what's so great about being a real estate investor is there are times where you get to wear a superhero's cape and you can come in and really help people out of, say, pre-foreclosure, a really tough probate situation where you're fighting with siblings or whatever it is. You can come in and really rescue people from a tough situation. But you are using real estate to build this community. Is it a community?
Yeah. Yes,
Okay.
absolutely.
So Valhalla Villas. So tell us a little bit about this. Where did this all come from?
Yeah, so I mean, it started really with my son. I'd love to say I just did it because I was thinking about other people, but it started with him and then it progresses, right? So my oldest son, his name is Carl, super cool guy, but he has autism. And as a parent of someone with special needs, at first you're just worrying about the day-to-day stuff. Then you're worried about getting him through school. Well, now he's reached adulthood. And now you're like, whoo, future, adulthood, need to be able to support himself, live independently, all these sorts of things that you kind of take for granted with your non-special needs children, right? So I've got another son who doesn't have autism. And, and you start talking to the other parents and they're all facing the same thing. So 75% of autistic adults live with their parents their entire life. And the same ratio, 75%, are either unemployed or underemployed. And that includes high functioning autistic individuals and includes the ones that have college degrees. Because as you were talking about networking earlier, getting to know people and socializing is such a big part of our society. And that's what they struggle the most with. So you often see in companies that people who get promoted aren't necessarily the best at their jobs. They may be the best at schmoozing, right? And they do not have that ability at all. So it's a huge problem. And so I'm trying to address that.
So what is this community? Let's talk about it.
Yeah. So we've actually got two models that we're working with, and it is fairly new, right? So we're a new nonprofit. We've only been around for 1 year. So this is still getting off the ground, but the vivid vision is there. And I think we're going to talk a little bit about vivid visions.
Yes.
But our vision is to take this across the entire country. And we are following established models. We're just putting a twist on it with autism because no one has done this, to my knowledge. Maybe somebody's out there and can correct me, where it is solely for autistic adults. So two models. The first is we use tax credits that are offered from the government to build entire brand new communities from the ground up that are exclusive to autistic individuals.
Wow.
Where we can put services in place to provide the kinds of things that parents might otherwise provide. But the sad thing is, as parents, we're not always going to be here and we don't know when our time is up, right? So we want to make sure that if something happens to us, our kids are in a safe place where someone's going to still look after them. So that's what we want to provide, where they get to live more or less independently, but someone's still watching out for them. They're very gullible. They can be taken advantage of. People, they do all sorts of terrible things when it comes to taking advantage of special needs people. I could tell you horror stories, but we're going to keep this upbeat. So we want to have this community where they also don't get judged by a lot of people because there's other people like them living there.
Right.
And it increases their chance of making friends. We'll have social programs all integrated into it, roommate matching, these sorts of things, because the other big problem they face is loneliness and depression, and the suicide rate is sky high for this population. So these are all things we want to address. And we are going to have employment right there within the community because there are lots of things that have to get done at an apartment complex. So we might as well employ the people living there. And all of them will be built right by grocery stores and shopping centers where there are other employment opportunities. So it's all kind of integrated. All the things that really can hamper them in life, we're going to have that. We're going to have the job coaching. We're already creating partnership with employers that are going to be willing to do internships and then bring them on. So it's pretty exciting. And we're partnering with universities as well to do Best Buddies programs. And Yeah.
This is amazing. And going back to networking, I meet with an accountability group every other Thursday. And so today is Thursday. And I met with a good friend of mine who I have lunch with, like I said, every other Thursday. And she has an autistic child. Her name is Sherry. And I was telling her about my interview today with you. And there's such a huge need for this. And it's something that she got into real estate investing so that she could help same type of situation. She doesn't really know how she's going to do that yet. So I really have to connect the two of you to, to share ideas, etc. But you mentioned the government has a special financial assistance for this. But one of the points that you talked about here is that the government's not going to take care of your child. So for listeners out there that maybe have a child who is autistic, who, give us some pointers right there of like what you need to do. Because having a kid is expensive. Having a kid on the spectrum is going to be a lot more expensive. So what are some things that they need to take care of here?
Yeah, absolutely. It's so true. So you mentioned the need. You are so right. 1 in every 44 kids in the US is diagnosed with autism.
Wow.
That just blows my brain. That is a statistic that I can barely wrap my head around. And it's increasing every year. So the demand for this is not going to get less. And that's why we have the 2 models. So I talked about the build from the ground up with the government funding that basically gives tax credits that big corporations buy. And that's how we get the funding to build it. The second model is an integrated model where we do kind of real estate syndications, which I know you're familiar with and your listeners are probably familiar with, where we go buy an existing apartment complex. So this meets that demand sooner, right? Because they're already there. And then we convert some of the tenants, usually about 25% over to autistic individuals, right? So we make it available to them and we bring in the services. So for those that maybe don't want to live in a community where it's all the same and they want to integrate with others, this is an option for them and it lets us bring it faster. But here's where I'm getting back to the parents. I'm getting there, I swear. This is where the parents, for example, and it doesn't have to be just autistic, parents of autistic individuals, it could be anyone with special needs. If they want to invest in a syndication, and grow their wealth so they can support these kids because they are expensive to raise and want to be able to leave that to their kids, this is a great way to do it because these apartment complexes will never be sold. And that's the big difference, right? Most syndications, it's like a 4 to 10 year hold time. And then you got to flip it and invest in something new. So if you leave that to a special needs child, are they going to know how to reinvest that money? 70% of wealth is lost by the second generation, just in regular second generations, right? What are the odds that your special needs kid is going to know how to do that? I know my son would not, and he's been raised in a real estate household, right? So here you can invest in something that leaves that legacy wealth where there will just be cash flow forever. And we will still have the opportunity to, refinance and get the investors their initial capital back. So you have that to go invest in something else and continue to grow your wealth, which is the power of real estate, right? Reinvesting the same money, but keeping the asset. But yeah, they can pass it down. But here's where it really matters. It matters how you pass assets down to your special needs kids. Because as you mentioned, government doesn't take care of these kids very well. They do offer you can apply for like Social Security disability insurance, but it's pathetic. It depends and it varies where you live and it depends on a lot of things. But I think on average, it's somewhere in the $700 a month range. Tell me where you can live for $700 a month.
All right.
It's just not there. So we want to help parents grow the wealth to take better care of their kids, but we still want them to be able to qualify for Social Security, for Medicaid, and anything else if they qualify for HUD or something like that, so they don't lose those benefits. So it matters how you invest. So we can put them in contact with the right attorneys to set up things like special needs trusts, get your will set up correctly so that there are people that will actually be taking ownership of that asset so it doesn't count against their benefits, but yet the child gets the money. And then that money gets funneled through something called an ABLE account. So that's something else we can put them in touch with, how to set up like an ABLE account where that income's not going to count against them in the same way. And there's so much to that. If you need a guardianship over your child, your financial or health or both, all of those are things that special needs parents have to deal with. And for those of us who've been through it already, we've gotten the brain damage from it, so we can help you get through it a little bit easier. So we have a whole community of people that can help you structure everything right for those investments.
So dumb this down for me a little bit, and because you said a lot right there. And
I know.
So you're saying, but this is great information. So you're saying, I'm going to use my friend Sherry, for example. I think her son is 17, 18, 19, around that age, young adult. And so she could invest in I'm going to say it for me again.
Valhalla Villas.
Valhalla Villas, sorry. And then she will be, and it's for life, meaning once she passes and he's an adult, there's still money coming into him, correct?
That's right.
But here's the thing. You're saying invest it in a way so that it doesn't take away, like, so they're not making too much money so that they can't get the Social Security, disability insurance, stuff like that. So
right.
You have ways of protecting it better for that's what I wanted to touch on. So,
Unfortunately, our government disincentivizes these individuals from working. They're like, okay, you can have this $700 or whatever it might be, or whatever they're qualified for. But if you go out and get a job, because you're one of the few who's lucky enough to get a job, and you make, say, $200 that month, they're going to decrease your Social Security by $200 a month. So that's great incentive, right? Now, of course, it varies, and there are lots of rules, and I'm not going to get into all of that. But you need to make sure that if they do make money, however they make it, that it doesn't end up counting against them. And so there are ways to structure it to help with that. But yeah, if they own things, if they own a car or a house, things like that can count against their qualifications for things that they really are eligible for, or should be.
So what would be like the most important thing that they should definitely watch out for? And so like setting up a trust, a special needs trust, things like that. What is the most important that is going to protect their finances?
Yeah, that special needs trust is critically important. For one thing, it helps you not have to go through probate. So imagine the devastation for one of these children, for any child really, of losing their parents to begin with. But now they got to fight with the courts before they can get any money to support themselves. Like they could just kind of be dropped there, right? So by having the trust already in place and owning your assets through that trust, the money will keep flowing to your child from day one, right? There won't be any delay there. So I'd say that's probably the most important part.
Good. I also like that you're setting it up so that there won't be a burden on your other son to feel like he has the responsibility to take care of it, which I have a good friend who lives 2 hours away, and she has a brother who's special needs. And I know she's constantly having to take care of him. And, and that's such a burden for her at times, their family. I wouldn't call it a burden, but it's just a thought. And she has that extra responsibility. So putting these financial things in place is just so very important. So
that's such a strong point, because a lot of people don't know that, but there's actual statistics behind that, where oftentimes the sibling ends up being the primary caretaker for longer than the parents actually end up being, because the parents get old and eventually pass away, but the siblings the same age or similar age, right? And so they end up being primary caregiver for some of the hardest parts of their lives. So yeah, you're dead on there. Yep,
exactly. So, all right. How do people find you if they, I love this idea. I'm a former middle school teacher. I taught music. So a lot of my autistic children were phenomenal at music. I had one student who had perfect pitch, which was crazy. And, so I have I'm a huge supporter of this. So how can the listeners, even if they don't have any family members, but they want to donate, or they want to, not even donate, they want to grow their money. This is just another opportunity for them to grow some money. So how can they become a part of this organization?
Yeah, so the easiest way, because it's easier to spell really, is to go to bluevikingscapital.com. So that is basically my syndication business, but we have a link there to Valhalla Villas, but you can go to valhallavillas.org if you can spell it. But there is a link directly on there, but also at Blue Vikings Capital, you're going to find my email address. You're going to find all my social media links. I have a Facebook group completely dedicated to special needs, all special needs. And it's called A Bright Future as Special Needs Community, where we offer webinars to teach people how to set up these trusts and your wills, and teach you about ABLE accounts and all this kind of stuff. So I encourage people to look at that. And if by chance you have podcast notes, so you can include those
Yes.
links, I can give you all of those. But all of them will also be found on bluevikingscapital.com. So if you just start there, you can get to everything else. And so that's the best way.
And what's like the starting amount that they can invest?
50,000.
Okay. And do you have to be an accredited investor?
Not for all things. So I will make an individualized plan with anybody who wants to connect and set up a call with me. We can look at where they are now, how to get them to where they need to be in order to be accredited. Because once you get to accredited status, you are eligible for a lot bigger things, right? So, but I try to do a lot of things for non-accredited because I want to be able to help out all the families. So a lot of times we might help start you growing your income by doing shorter time frame kind of syndications, try to grow up that wealth and then put it into one of these forever holds or something like that. Or you might do some sort of combination, but it's going to depend on everybody's individual situation. So the best thing to do is to set up a call and let's see where you're at and where you need to go. And I start with, let's figure out how much your child's going to need in the future to live, right? And let's set that as our goal and paint the vision for getting there and then see where we need to go from there.
Well, I just think this is helping people in two different buckets here. You have families that need a place like this for their adult child, but then you also have people who are investors who want to park their money and you pay, did I read that right? 12% interest?
It's not interest, so they're dividends. But yeah, most people are getting 12% or more a year on their investments.
And this is for life. So this is also for people who have a bucket of cash that they want to leave a legacy for their family. They can park it with you, and then their kids will continuously get money from this organization.
Absolutely. Plus, you can feel good that it's going to help a good cause.
Absolutely. This is amazing. So for the listeners out there, if you have an idea of something like this to do. So I coach students who are just starting out into real estate investing. And I have one that wants to do like a tiny home village for veterans. So there's all these different great things that you can do as a real estate investor to give back to your community. And this is just one that I know it's a feel good and they're still making money. They're making great returns. And again, that's for life. I think this is fantastic. Maria, thank you so much for sharing this information. If people listening have ideas where maybe they want to start their own Valhalla Villas.
Very good.
Okay, Valhalla Villas. If they want to start their own, is that something they can do? Like,
oh yeah,
partner? Okay, oh, yeah. Very good. And tell us where the name came from, by the way.
Well, I've got this Viking history, right? So that's why my main company is called Blue Vikings Capital. So
what is your nationality?
Sweden. Swedish. Okay. Yes, I was born and raised in Sweden. My brother actually lives in a Viking village, an honest to goodness Viking village. He wolf at his feet kind of person, right? So we literally have that running through our blood. And Valhalla, of course, is the Viking heaven, if you will, in Norse mythology. So that's where that comes from, because we want to make it a heavenly place, but we don't want to get all, religious on you here. So we're keeping it with the Norse theme. Well,
I love it. And thank you so much for sharing that. You heard me share a badassery bestowment. So do you have a little bit of like a short piece of advice that you can share with the audience?
Oh gosh. I forgot what I had.
You wrote, don't try to tackle all of this on your own, is what you wrote.
Oh, yes. Well, that gets back to your networking thing, right? So I had this idea to do this, but I didn't know where to start. So I just started reaching out to other people in the community. And then we put together a badass team to go tackle it together. So that's absolutely where that comes from. So yes, make it a team sport like everything in real estate, because you can go a whole lot further with a team.
Well, I am glad to have you on my team, and you are so great to throw things past. And I just love that you're doing this. This is just warms the heart. So the second part of the podcast is what makes Maria a badass. And I use the acronym BADASS. And the first letter is B for book. What's a book that's made a huge difference in your life?
Vivid vision.
We were just talking about
Yeah,
this.
we were talking about that. Cameron Harold, I believe it is.
Cameron
Yeah.
Harold, yep.
Yeah. So having that vision of where you're going long before you get there, not just saying, well, wherever tomorrow takes me, that's the heading, but you make that vivid vision, you really see it. I mean, you have to really lay it out, and the book really explains it well. But then you say yes to everything that pulls you in that direction, and learn to say no to things that pull you in the other directions, because it's really easy to squirrel, especially in real estate. There's so many opportunities.
And I first heard about this book on Bigger Pockets, and he read it. Brandon Turner. I was like,
Brandon Turner. Yep. That's where I heard about it too.
Yeah. So he read it like on a plane ride, and it is a quick read, but it does tell you how to lay things out. And I did one 3 years ago, and we called it Not Yet Fiddy, FIDDY, because Vance and I turned 50 this year. And so but it's amazing everything that came true. Like you're visualizing it like it has already happened 3 years from now, and you're looking back and just reflecting on it. So I love that book. And when I saw it, I was like, oh, I literally had that book in my hand yesterday. All right. The first A in Badass is advice. What's the best piece of advice you've ever received?
It's finding your big why and then following your passion, because that's what's going to drive you, especially on those days where things go bad. If you have a big enough why, you'll keep going. And it's never failure unless you quit.
And nothing ever goes bad in real estate, right?
No, I wish.
And Jacob Jennings is the person that told you that?
Yes.
I love him. He's so
one
sweet.
of my masterminds. He's wonderful.
He is fabulous. All right. The D in Badass is for drive. What drives you to be successful?
My son, every day. Yeah, just thinking about him. So,
and I believe it. And look at what you are doing. You're changing the world. You have turned it into something that is going to benefit so many families for a lifetime. So Maria, you're fantastic for that.
thank you.
All right. The second A in Badass is aspiration. I'm a big goal setter. So what is a goal you are currently working on?
Our goal is to bring this across the entire nation. I want to make sure we have a community like this in every state in the United States.
And I don't doubt it. And I love that you said to be near a grocery store, because grocery stores are great for hiring people that are on the spectrum, whether it's loading the shelves or check out things like that. What are other professions that are really good for? 'Cause we have a coffee shop in North Carolina that everyone that works there is special needs, and it is fantastic. So any other places nearby where they can work?
They're really good at anything that's a repetitive task that would bore most people. My son, when he does repetitive tasks, he says it really calms his brain.
Oh.
So of course, everybody on the spectrum is different. So it's going to be different for everybody, but that's one of the things that helps. But the other really important part about being near a grocery store is most of these people, about 50% or more, do not drive. And the one thing we all need is food.
Yes.
So we need to be close to a food supply, and we're not going to be hunting and gathering or, munching on woodpeckers. So we need that grocery store.
All right. The first S in Badass is for systems. What systems do you have in place to help you achieve success?
My systems and tech, honestly, they need to be better. That's just the truth of it. Systems are something I sometimes struggle with, but what I do try to do is every day of my week is for one specific purpose, right? So I will do investor calls on one particular day. I will write blogs about autism on another day. I try to section it out, because if you get too scatterbrained, they talk about multitasking, but really that's not what you want to do. If you can focus on one thing at a time, things will go better. So that's the one part of my system that really seems to work, is just making sure each day is dedicated to a very particular thing, instead of trying to bundle it all together.
Do you have an assistant that works for you?
I do.
Oh man, I'm so jealous. That's my thing is I need that system right there. I need someone helping me run all this stuff. So
it did make a world of difference once I did that. So.
And then Vance is like, well, how do you expect us to pay for this? I'm like, how do you expect us to not pay for it? So
We can talk about that offline. I got some ideas.
Maria, thank you so much. All right. The final S in badass is success. What does success mean to Maria?
Well, it's when I've not only helped my son, but all those other parents and people with special needs out there who need this. And so I guess there's no end to it because that's a lot of people. But when you're in this world, you get to know so many people in this world, and you hear the most heartbreaking stories, and then you hear these wonderful success stories. And we want all those parents to be the superheroes in their kids' lives. So we want to see lots of those success stories. So when I see their success, that's my success too.
Well, you are a superhero to me, Maria. So thank you so much for sharing this and being on the show today. And one more time, what's the best way for people to find you?
BlueVikingsCapital.com.
Love it. And thank you so much for being here, Maria. You are the best. I appreciate you.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
And that is all. We will catch you on the next episode. Now go out there and share your badassery. And don't forget, make it a great day. Take care. Bye-bye. Whoop, whoop.
Thank you for listening to RAIN, the Real Estate Investor Growth Network. Be sure to subscribe on your favorite podcasting platform so you never miss an episode. If you need more badassery, you can follow Jen Josie by visiting therealjenjosie.com or become a member of RAIN by registering on rainmastermind.com.